Captain Zeth's gill slits fluttered with what could only be described as malicious anticipation. The sleek, blue-scaled Hydran stood at the observation deck of the Elite Naval Academy, watching the morning light filter through 30 meters of pristine Aquatica prime ocean water above. His webbed fingers drummed against the reinforced bio-glass as he reviewed the incoming cadet roster on his waterproof tablet. A human, he chuckled, the sound bubbling through his respiratory system like a clogged drain. They actually sent us a human. The Academy's underwater complex stretched out below him in all its magnificent glory. Spiral towers twisted upward through the water column, connected by transparent tubes that allowed cadets to swim freely between sections. Training pools of varying depths dotted the seafloor like craters, each one designed to push aquatic species to their absolute limits. And at the center of it all sat the legendary abyssal testing chamber, a 200-meter deep cylinder that had broken the spirits of countless would-be naval officers. Commander Reef glided up beside him, her own scales shimmering with bioluminescent pride. "I hear this one is from Earth, Captain. A Deathworld, no less." "Deathworld," Seth repeated, tasting the word like week-old plankton. "How terrifying. I suppose having predators on land makes them think they can handle real aquatic challenges. What species has the Defense Corps been accepting lately?" Reef mused, her tentacle-like hair swirling in the current. "First those air-breathing kelp folk, now a surface dweller. Next they will be sending us rock-eaters from the asteroid belts." Zeth's smile revealed rows of razor-sharp teeth. "Well, Commander, you know what they say about the Academy's entrance policy. Sink or swim," they said in unison, their laughter creating streams of bubbles that rose toward the distant surface. Above them, a transport pod was descending through the water column, carrying one Jessica Kane from the third rock of the Sol system. The human had no idea what awaited her in the depths below. The transport pod settled onto the docking platform with all the grace of a dying whale, sending ripples through the Academy's reception chamber. Through the bio-glass viewport, the assembled staff got their first look at humanity's contribution to galactic naval excellence. "By the depths," whispered Instructor Gills, his eye stalks recoiling in what appeared to be physical pain. "Look at that thing." Jessica Kane emerged from the pod wearing what could generously be called equipment, if one squinted really hard and ignored 3 centuries of aquatic evolution. Her breathing apparatus looked like something cobbled together from spare parts. Her fins were laughably small and her suit appeared to be made from some sort of primitive synthetic material that probably predated faster-than-light travel. "The briefing says she is from a Class 12 Deathworld," Commander Reef announced, reading from her datapad with barely concealed amusement. "Apparently, 71% of the surface is covered in water." The kelp folk representative swayed with laughter, their frond-like appendages rippling in the current. "Water coverage means nothing if you cannot breathe it," gurgled Kelp, the Academy's botanical warfare instructor. Bubble, the spherical atmospheric breather who served as the cultural liaison, inflated slightly with what passed for mirth among his species. "I have reviewed their swimming records. They actually hold their breath and flail around on the surface. It is quite amusing to observe." Captain Zeth studied the human as she awkwardly maneuvered through the reception area, clearly struggling with the most basic underwater movement. Her technique was abysmal, her form was embarrassing, and her confidence appeared to be somewhere between non-existent and delusional. "Gentlemen, ladies, and assorted aquatic life forms," Seth announced with ceremonial gravity, "I believe we have found this cycle's entertainment. Schedule her for the full trials, starting tomorrow." "The deep water trials, Captain?" Gills asked, his voice bubbling with anticipation. "All of them," Zeth confirmed. "Let us see how well Deathworld evolution prepared her for real water." The shallow training pool sparkled under the artificial bioluminescent lighting. All of 3 meters deep and about as threatening as a puddle to any self-respecting aquatic species. Instructor Gills positioned himself at the pool's edge, with the kind of patronizing patience usually reserved for explaining quantum physics to shellfish. "Now, Cadet Kane," Gills began, his voice dripping with condescension thick enough to swim through, "we shall start with the absolute basics. This is water. You move through it by coordinating your appendages in a rhythmic fashion." Jessica nodded earnestly from the pool's edge, her primitive breathing gear making unfortunate whistling sounds. "Thank you, Instructor. I will try my best not to embarrass the human species too badly." The other cadets had gathered around the training area like spectators at a particularly entertaining accident. Tide, a young hydran from the upper currents, was already taking bets. 5 credits says she sinks like a rock within 30 seconds, he whispered to his podmate Current. You are being generous, Current replied. I give her 15 seconds before panic sets in. Gills demonstrated the basic stroke with fluid grace, his movements so effortlessly perfect that nearby fish stopped to applaud. Observe the technique. Cadet as extension, pull, glide. Extension, pull, glide. Even the simplest aquatic younglings master this within hours of hatching. Jessica slipped into the water with all the elegance of a malfunctioning cargo loader. Her first attempt at swimming resembled someone trying to fight off invisible attackers while simultaneously having a seizure. Water splashed everywhere, her breathing apparatus made distressing gurgling sounds, and her form looked like it had been designed by a committee of particularly vindictive engineers. Help! Jessica gasped, thrashing dramatically near the shallow end. I think I am drowning in 3 meters of water. The alien cadets erupted, in laughter that sent bubbles cascading through the chamber. Several of them were recording the spectacle for what would undoubtedly become legendary entertainment back in their home systems. Perhaps we should increase the difficulty, Gills suggested with barely contained glee. Cadet Kane, please attempt to swim to the deep end of the pool. Jessica's eyes went wide behind her mask, a perfect picture of terrestrial terror. The deep end? But that is almost 4 meters down there. Indeed, Gills confirmed, his gill slits fluttering with anticipation. Surely a Deathworld warrior can handle such extreme depths. As Jessica began her hilariously inept journey toward the pool's far end, splashing and flailing like a malfunctioning submersible, the alien's confidence swelled. This was going exactly according to plan. Tomorrow's deep water trial would be the perfect finale to this comedy of errors. The transport capsule descended through the Academy's central column like a ceremonial hearse, carrying its doomed passenger toward the legendary abyssal testing chamber. Captain Zeth pressed his face against the viewport, watching the depth readings climb with sadistic satisfaction. 50 meters, 100, 150, and finally settling at the 200-meter mark where crushing darkness met crushing pressure. Behold Cadet Kane, Commander Reef announced with theatrical grandeur, the abyssal testing chamber, where legends are born and failures are composted. The facility stretched out before them like a cathedral of liquid doom. Bioluminescent markers dotted the chamber walls, creating an eerie constellation in the midnight black water. Emergency recovery pods hung suspended at various veths, their lights blinking like funeral beacons. The chamber itself was a perfect cylinder, 200 meters straight down, designed to break spirits and shatter confidence. Before we begin your final examination, Reef continued, clearly savoring every word, perhaps a demonstration is in order. What followed was essentially an aquatic circus performance designed to showcase everything Jessica could never achieve. Instructor Gills performed a flawless spiral dive that would have made dolphins weep with envy. Cadet Tide executed barrel rolls and underwater loops that defied several laws of physics. Current demonstrated breath-holding techniques by remaining motionless at the bottom for what seemed like geological ages. You see, Cadet, Reef said, floating back to the surface with insufferable grace. This is what natural aquatic evolution produces. 3 billion years of refinement, adaptation and survival of the fittest. And now let us discuss natural selection. Reef's speech had clearly been practiced in front of mirrors. She spoke of evolutionary pressure, of species knowing their limitations, of the beautiful cosmic order, where everyone found their proper place in the food chain. It was the kind of lecture that university professors gave right before failing half their students. Sometimes, Cadet Kane, the kindest thing we can do is help a species understand their boundaries, Reef concluded. Consider this educational. Before Jessica could respond, 3 pairs of webbed hands grabbed her and unceremoniously hurled her into the abyss. Her primitive breathing gear was ripped away during the throw, leaving her to face the crushing depths with nothing but whatever pathetic lung capacity her Deathworld evolution had provided. The aliens immediately began congratulating themselves with the enthusiasm of a successful lynch mob. Well done, Commander, Gills bubbled. That will teach the Defense Corps about sending us inappropriate species. I almost feel sorry for her, Tide lied unconvincingly. But sometimes harsh lessons are necessary for the greater good. They waited for the inevitable. The desperate thrashing, the panicked surfacing, the humiliating rescue that would complete Jessica's educational experience. Seconds ticked by. Then minutes. The aliens' celebration gradually died down as they realized something was wrong. Jessica had not surfaced. She had not even tried to surface. In fact, she had completely disappeared into the crushing darkness below, leaving nothing but a few betraying bubbles that were already dissolving into the infinite black. The water erupted like a depth charge had detonated in reverse. Jessica Kane shot up from the bottomless black like a surface-to-air missile with an attitude problem, reaching the surface with enough force to send waves crashing against the chamber walls. She hung suspended in the water for a moment, droplets cascading off her like she was some sort of aquatic deity making a dramatic entrance. "Well," Jessica said, floating effortlessly on her back while the aliens gaped like suffocating fish. "That was refreshing. Thank you for the warm welcome to your lovely academy." The assembled hydrons looked like they had just witnessed their fundamental understanding of physics get mugged in a dark alley. Commander Reef's mouth was opening and closing without producing any sound, which was quite an achievement for a species that literally breathed water. "I have to say," Jessica continued, treading water with the kind of casual ease that made professional swimmers weep with envy, "your hospitality is really something special. Most academies start with orientation and a nice meal. You folks go straight to attempted murder. I respect that commitment to efficiency." Captain Zeth finally found his voice, though it came out as more of a strangled gurgle. "How are you still alive? The pressure down there should have crushed your primitive respiratory system like an empty kelp pod." Jessica's laugh echoed through the chamber like sonar bouncing off a particularly amused whale. "Primitive? Oh, Captain, you really have not done your homework on Deathworld evolution, have you? What happened next could only be described as a masterclass in aquatic humiliation." Jessica demonstrated the butterfly stroke with technique so flawless that it made the aliens' earlier performances look like amateur hour at the local swimming hole. She executed a perfect dolphin kick that propelled her through the water faster than some of the Academy's training vehicles. "You see, gentlemen and assorted aquatic life forms," Jessica explained while performing what appeared to be an underwater ballet routine. "Humans evolved on a planet where the water actively tries to kill you. Rip currents, tsunamis, hypothermia, marine predators with more teeth than good sense. We did not just adapt to water, we adapted to water that wanted us dead." She paused to demonstrate breath control by casually diving down 50 meters and staying there long enough for the aliens to start planning her funeral. When she finally surfaced, she was holding Instructor Gills's favorite depth gauge, which had apparently been accidentally dropped during yesterday's training session. "Human lung capacity," Jessica said, tossing the equipment to the stunned instructor, "evolved to handle altitude changes, extended physical exertion, and the occasional need to hold our breath while something with very large teeth decided whether we looked tasty. The pressure down there, that is basically a gentle massage by human standards." The pieces finally clicked into place for Captain Zeth. The clumsy surface technique, the panicked thrashing, the apparent inability to handle basic swimming. It had all been an elaborate, humiliating, perfectly executed performance designed to make them reveal exactly how cruel and arrogant they really were. "You played us," he whispered, the words carrying the weight of complete and utter defeat. Like a symphony orchestra, Jessica confirmed with a grin that could have powered the Academy's bioluminescent lighting for a week. "And the encore is just getting started." "Now then," Jessica said with the kind of cheerful authority that made military commanders weep with gratitude, "who would like to learn some actual survival swimming?" What followed was the most educational 30 minutes in the Academy's 3-century history. Jessica demonstrated combat swimming techniques that made the aliens' graceful movements look like decorative dancing. She showed them how to rescue unconscious victims while fighting against hostile currents, how to tread water for hours while conserving energy, and how to survive in water that was actively trying to kill you through temperature, predators, or simple malicious physics. "The problem with evolving in perfect aquatic conditions," Jessica explained while effortlessly towing 3 adult hydrants through a rescue simulation, "is that you never learn to handle the impossible situations. We humans call it the difference between swimming and surviving." Commander Reef watched in silent amazement as Jessica taught her instructors techniques they had never seen before. Breathing patterns that maximized oxygen efficiency, stroke modifications for injured limbs, and mental preparation methods for extended underwater operations that pushed the boundaries of what Reef thought was physiologically possible. "Cadet Kane," Reef said finally, the words tasting like humble pie flavored with crow. I believe the Academy owes you an apology, and perhaps a different kind of position. By the end of the day, several things had changed at the Elite Naval Academy. The admission policies were rewritten to focus on adaptability rather than species superiority. Cross-species training protocols were established to share survival techniques between different evolutionary backgrounds, and Jessica Kane found herself promoted from struggling cadet to chief aquatic survival instructor, with a salary that reflected the Academy's newfound respect for Deathworld innovation. "Welcome to the Academy, Instructor Kane," Reef said, offering a formal salute. "We have much to learn."